Okay, chapter 1, lesson 5, graphing proportional relationships. You got it written down somewhere? Okay, so let's talk about, if you don't get it written down, get it written down. Chapter 1, lesson 5, graphing proportional relationships. And then I have a bell ringer for you, and it's on the next page. Okay, so hang tight. It's coming. Graphing proportional relationships, and that's why you need your graph paper today. Now, when we use our graph paper, we're going to make a few graphs on this paper, so you don't got to make them huge, okay? And I want you to keep them on one side so you can put this in your notes then. So when we make graphs, they don't have to be huge. Do it on one side so you can put it into your notes, unless you want to do it so, yeah, you put it on both sides and you flip it. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So, a lot of work, a lot of work. Ready? Okay. Ready, Merrick? All right, so today let's talk about our bell ringer. So let's go back to the things we've learned, not yesterday, but 2 days ago. Remember we made charts, we had to find if things were in proportion. My first question to you is this. Now we can just do this verbally, we don't have to write it down, that's okay. How can you tell if something is in proportion? I gave you 3 different ways. What's one way, Josie? Yep, if they all reduce to the same thing. What's another way? If you use cross products, right? Yep, and you get the same number. And last but not least, if you divide and you can get the same decimal, the same whole number, it shows in proportion. Let's create a table that continues to be in proportion here. So to do that, what do I have to look at? What's it called again? Do you remember? The unit rate. And what's my unit rate here for pizza? $6 for one pizza? That's pretty cheap, right? For 2 pizzas, what's it going to cost? 3. Yep. 4. 5. Okay. Now, if I ask you again, how can I tell if this is in proportion? What could I do to figure that out, Jasmine? Is what? And guess what? Is 24 divided by 4 6? And 18 divided by 3, 12 divided by 2? It's in proportion. If I reduce them all the same, guess what it's going to reduce to? 6 over 1. Okay. Questions so far? Anybody remember this? Because you have to know this to be able to do today. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about graphing this table then. So that's the reason why we talked about graphing yesterday, is because you needed to know how to graph. Because that's what we're going to do with these proportion tables, okay? So, if you want, you can make this in your notes if you want, this table, and then we'll graph it together, and that's where you can use your graph paper. Not cool. It's probably Mercy. Once you get the table made, let me know, and then we'll start to explain what to do. I think it's pretty nice today because in your homework, I think they have the chart or the graph set up for you. You just need to plot the point, I think. writing the steps. You can write the steps too if you want, and I'll explain how to do them. Like I told you, if I have steps, sometimes it's a good idea to write them down because they will help you if you need some help. Okay, so I'm gonna look at this chart. I have time and I have distance. I don't know. We can make it in seconds. I don't care. We could do like, or we could do minutes. Let's do minutes. We'll pretend, and this can be inches. Okay, so like let's think of a turtle. In 1 minute, how far do they go? 6 inches. Okay, so let's pretend we're working with the turtle. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna use this chart and we're gonna put it into a graph. Okay. So my first line up here, this is going to be my x's, and my second line are going to be my y's. Okay? And the first thing says to me, find the ordered pair. So luckily, guess what? Here's an ordered pair. My ordered pair here is 0, 0. Here's an ordered pair, 1, 6. Here's an ordered pair, 2, 12. Do you see what I'm getting at? I'm taking those numbers off that chart and I'm making them into ordered pairs. 3 would be 3, 18, 4, 4, 24. I'm talking slow because we're talking about a turtle. Alright, so I found my ordered pairs. Check that one off the list. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph them. Now, when you make a graph, most of the time today, you're only going to need, you don't need the whole 4 quadrants like we had yesterday. You're only going to need that quadrant number 1. Okay? So what you can really need to do is start your table to look like this, or your graph. Okay? And what's on my x-axis? Time, right? So this is my x-axis, and this is going to be my time. This is what you can do on your graph paper if you want with me, or if you'd rather sketch it on your notebook, that's fine too. It's totally up to you. And then my y-axis, which is this one, is going to be the distance. Okay. And now I can start putting some numbers on my graph. Do you want me to wait a second? Okay. Now remember, my graph isn't going to be drawn to scale. It's not going to be perfect, but your graph should be close because you're using graph paper actually. So on time, what do you think I'm going to put on the bottom here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going by minutes, right? Minutes, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, this line is always 0, so we don't have to put 0 on it. Okay? This is always 0. We don't have to put 0 on it. That's where some people get in trouble. They start with 0, and you don't have to do that, because if you remember our coordinate plane from yesterday, remember 0, 0 was that corner. Okay, it's the same thing here. Now my distance, what do you think I can do on my side here? What can I go up by? I could go up by 6's, because what happens here? It goes up by 6's, right? Okay, so let's go up by 6's. 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay. Perfect. I just did my graph. I just started my graph. So, okay, I'm kind of done with number 2. Actually, we're actually done with number 3. We labeled our axes already, so we're good there. Now I'm going to take those those points, those coordinates, and I'm going to graph them on my graph. Okay, so 0, 0 is going to be here. Then 1, 6, 2, 12, 3, 18, 4, 24. Okay, just remember this is just sketch and it's not perfect. And then I'm going to use a straight edge or ruler. Or you know what works really, really good? This side of your planner works really good if you need something straight. Or your paper. Yeah, I was going to even show you even this thing in here. If some of you have this thing, yeah, this works really good. Or if you just want to use this side, that works really good. So now you're going to connect the dots. A lot of you like to do that, so we're going to connect the dots. Okay, and it should all fall on the same line. just graphed a proportional relationship. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. You're done. It is pretty easy. But a few things about, yes ma'am, question? For the most part, yes, because usually it's only a few points. It's really a few points. And the reason why they want you to, because they might give you a graph that's not in proportion. And they want you to be able to see in your graph why it's not in proportion. Okay, so yes. A few things about graphing, though. We need to go back to the basics. Do you remember doing this when you were young, graphing? Okay. So there's a few things you got to know about graphing. Number one is you need to have the same intervals. You can't just decide, oh, I want to go by 2, then I want to go by 6, and then I want to go by 1, and then I want to go by 9. It doesn't work that way. You have to go by the same interval. What was my interval here? 6. You have to use the same interval. If you don't, then everything's going to look like it's in proportion. Okay, you have to use the same interval. You can't say, oh, I want to go by 1, and then 6, and then 10, and then 13, and then 1. You cannot do that. It has to be the same interval. That is the biggest thing you have to remember. Okay? Now, they might give you some times when you're not in proportion. Okay? Sometimes they might give you a table, and they might say, graph this table. And you might graph it, and you say, ooh, I have dots all over the place. Maybe it goes like this. What happens then? Is that a straight line? It has to be in a straight line to be in proportion. Okay, so you might want to know these two things. If a graph is in proportion, it will be in a straight line. So, look for a straight line. That's how to know something's in proportion. And that's why it's important to use that straight edge or that ruler to connect your dots. It's like this, not in proportion. It will be a straight line. Okay? And the other one, the other way you know if something is in proportion is it goes directly through that origin. What's the origin again? That 0, 0, right? So it has to go, oops, that's good. It has to go through this spot right here. So if it goes like this, oops, okay, come on. What's happening here? Okay, if it goes like this, that's going to be in proportion. Let's pretend that goes right through the origin, okay? Okay, I can move it. Okay. Anyway. But if it goes like this, and even if it's still in a straight line, it's not in proportion. It has to go through that 0, 0. So if you graph, let's say you graph something like this, and I know there's something like this on your homework today, and you're going to say, which one of these are in proportion? What were you going to say? The green one, because it goes through the origin, right? This one is not because it does not go through 0, 0. That means it's not staying in proportion. It's kind of like yesterday. Remember the question we had on our homework where it was number 12, 12B, and it said something about how much did she earn or give away all weekend, and then it was like Saturday and then Sunday in 1 hour and then Sunday plus 2 hours. If I would graph that table, this is how it would look, because I started with that 416 tickets or coupons, whatever. Okay, so not everything you see in a table is going to be in proportion, and these are 2 ways that you can help yourself figure it out. Any questions so far? Good? Okay. All right, so they might give you a problem today, and you have to, number 1, create a table, and number 2, graph it. Okay, so here's our problem. James earns $5 a week, or $5 per hour babysitting. Create a table and graph. Is his money earned in proportion to the hours worked? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create that table. Do I have a unit rate in there? What is it? 5 for 1 hour. So I would start creating my table. And I would do, let's do, what is it? Money? Let's do money. Let's do hours. Either way, it does not matter. So this is money. So if he makes $5, no wait, time out. I want to do it the other way, I think. Either way, it doesn't matter. Your graph's going to be fine either way. But I'm going to do it so I have, what do I want first? I want hours here. And I want cost here. So for 2 hours, it's going to cost $10. It doesn't matter. You could have did your 10 and your everything on the other side too. It doesn't matter. I like to do mine this way. So 3 is going to be 15. 4 is going to be 20. You could also make a table this way. You could also make a table this way. If you'd rather make it this way, 1 hour. You can make it either way. It does not matter to me how you make it. Okay, even though you probably already know this is in proportion, right? We still need to graph it. So I'm going to ask you to graph. So let's practice graphing because sometimes this is the hardest thing to do. So I'm going to make my graph. I'm going to start doing this. All right, so this is going to be my x and this is going to be my y. And if you did it up and down like this is going to be your x and this one's going to be your y. X, y. If you did yours the other way, your axes are going to be labeled the opposite way. Okay, so if you did yours a little different, that's okay. So down here, I'm going to have hours. And over here, I'm going to have money. On my hours axis, whichever one you did, I'm probably going to go by 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. That's the easiest way. And then up and down, I could probably go by 5s because that's a pretty easy interval. And then you should be able to plot your points and then connect your dots. Sometimes I worry the most about you making graphs. I don't know why, I just do. I just do. And I think for the most part on here, it has graphs for you already. Except for number 12, you're going to have to create your own graph. It should look like this. Bum, 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 bum. And then it should go through the origin. Should. Okay, that's not great. Remember, mine's just a sketch. Just a sketch. Make sure if you're skipping lines, you skip the same number of lines, because a lot of things go into, if you look at your graph, say, well, this isn't in proportion, a lot of things can go into that. If you didn't skip the same number of lines on your graph, if you've been using different lines, or if you are not going by the same interval, if you don't use a straight edge, sometimes that can get you in trouble. So make sure you're doing those things, because a lot can go into knowing if something's in proportion or not. Any questions yet on how to do this? It's actually pretty simple. Let's talk about this one. I'll graph it up here. You can just watch. Okay. Number of minutes in my calories burned. Number of minutes in my calories burned. So I'm going to do it like this. Let's say this is going to be my x and this is going to be my y. Does everybody know what I mean when I say this is my x and this is my y? That tells me what axis I'm going to put stuff on. Okay. What? Yep. So minutes, calories. Okay, so I don't go up by a great interval, but I'm going to go up by 4s, it looks like, on this side. 4, 8, 12, 16. This side I'm going to go by 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 0, 1, 4, 2, 8, 3, 13. In proportion? No, not. Because all those dots should be on that line, right? And if I would connect dots, is that a straight line? Not even close. Okay. Can I use this line to predict what's going to come next? How can I use this line to predict what's going to happen in my 5? Does anybody have a guess? Not this one, this one. How can I use that line to predict what's going to happen in my 5th minute, Josie. Right, if it's in proportion, I know there's a certain pattern, right? Pattern, 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 pattern. What's going to happen in my 5th minute? Guess what it's going to be across from? 20. So I can use that line on any of my graphs to determine what's going to keep happening. Like if I look at the one I just made with the babysitting one, if I would keep that line going, can I use that to determine what's going to happen in my 6th hour, and my 7th hour, and my 8th hour? You see what I'm talking about? Okay, so it's a good predictor of what's going to happen too. And I'm not sure if you have a question on that or not, but I feel like sometimes there is a question about being able to predict. So that is all I have for today. I know. Let us look at our homework because there's a few different ones that